All right, let's get started. In previous videos, we've learned how we can build an interactive web app for a machine learning model, right? So just moving from the Jupyter Notebook and then making things more interactive for our teammates to actually get to know what we're doing in the Jupyter Notebook, right? So I'm sure by now you know how to actually, you know the basis of how to build this web app for your machine learning algorithm, right? So we've learned the basis of this Streamlit. We've been able to build a mini app for that. In today's class, we're going to learn how to move one more step further and how we can actually build this, making it more interactive and making it more robust, right? So I'm sure you are familiar with the basis. If you've not watched the previous videos, if you've not watched the basis of it, I entreat you to watch that before these videos, because most of the things that we're going to do in this video is going to stem from what we've learned so far, right? What we've learned previously. So some of the things, if you've gone through the previous video, is going to be easier for you to actually do this one. So I entreat you to watch that if you've not watched that. Okay, so with that being said, let's jump in straight away. All right, so what we're going to do today is going to build a more interactive and more robust app, right? So let me show you what we are actually going to do before we start, building this from scratch. All right, so let me actually go this way. All right, so I'm going to stop whatever is running here. All right. Okay, so it's opening. So I'm going to show you what finally we're going to build today, right? So this is what we'll be doing, right? This is what we'll be doing, where we'll have our interface, and then we can load our data set from here, right? So we can load our data set from here. So we've been dealing with this in the previous videos. We dealt with something like this, something is similar to this, right? So in today's class, we're going to do more than that, right? So if you can see here, I have a sidebar here which is saying that select option. So over here you can see that we have EDA, that's the exploratory data analysis. We have visualization, we have model, and then about us, right? So this is just a complete app that you can build. So let's dive into this and see. So I have something here. If you want to display the shape of it, you can actually do it over here, right? You can do it over here. You can select some multiple columns, which we saw some earlier on in the previous class, and then some null values, some data types, some display correlation. And if you go here, right, so there are several things that you can do. Apart from the EDA, you have some visualizations over here that you can do as well, right? So you can select some multiple columns over here, and then you start to visualize, right? You start to visualize over here. So this is basically what we're going to do today, right? So as you can see, right? So in the previous videos, we did not do something like this where we give this kind of flexibility to our users, but in this video we're actually going to do that. So anything that we do in the Jupyter Notebook, we're going to do most of that. We're going to do most of that over here. So over here you can see that we are giving them flexibility to actually tune their hyperparameters from here, right? So they can easily do it and then experiment various models and how they are doing. All right, and over here you can actually see if you select multiple columns over here. All right, if you select multiple columns over here, maybe let me just do for this. Okay, let me just do it like that, and then select this, select that, select this. Okay, so if I do this, you see that I have this here, right, and it's still running. Now you can see that I'm making some predictions. I have my algorithm over here, right, and I have my accuracy over here, right? So I can choose different algorithms, right, from KNN, support vector machine, logistic regression, naive Bayes decision tree. So you can add as many algorithms as you want, right? So that's basically what we are going to do, right? You're going to build it separately. the EDA part, the visualization, the model part, and then the about us part. So, right, so over here they can actually tune the K, right? For K, and then you know that you need to choose your K, right? So they can easily choose different Ks over here, right? They can easily choose different Ks over here. So if I choose K equals 9, I can now see the accuracy that I'm getting over here, right? So this is quite if I choose, say, support vector machine, see that I have option to choose my C, right, or just a penalty when there's a crossover, right? We see that I have accuracy, different accuracy here for this. support vector machine algorithm, right? So I can compare different algorithms and see which one is doing better for me without me interacting with the code, right? Without me interacting with the code and getting scared with the code, right? So most stakeholders don't really want to look at the code. They really want the results, and that's what you're presenting it to them. All right. So straight away, let's dive in and then start building something. All right. Okay. So here we are, and mostly what we do. Let me actually close this one so that we build everything from scratch. Right. So let me go in and stop it. All right. So I use Control C to terminate this. All right. So now. Let me go back here now. What we're going to do is mostly what we do, even in the Jupyter Notebook, what we do is to first import the various libraries that we're going to use. All right. So the same way that we're going to do here, we're going to import the various libraries that we need. All right. So for that purpose, just to save time, I have my libraries that I need over here. I don't want to type this over and over again, right? So I just put them here, right? And maybe let me first save this, right? So I'm sure you know how to save this, and just saving it. The most important thing is that the extension here should be .py, right? So that's the most important thing, and I'm sure that if you've gone through the previous videos, I'm sure you are aware of this, right? So let's just name it as maybe main app, right? Something like that, or maybe ML app, right? ML app. .py, right? Something like that. Sorry. So I save it, and that's it. So over here, these are some of the libraries that I'm going to use, right? These are some of the libraries that I'm going to use. So import Streamlit as st, and then import NumPy as np, import pandas as pd, import seaborn as sns, import matplotlib, right? And over here, I can even get rid of this one, right? Yeah, I can get rid of this. Then import, and then I use this one, import macrolab.pyplot as plt, right? Then from sklearn.model selection, import train test split, right? To split our data into training and testing. I'm sure you are familiar with all these stuff, right? And if you're not familiar with this, I mean, we have a whole tutorial on this on your dashboard, so you can actually get to it and then learn more about that, right? We have a whole tutorial on all these stuff, and if you've gone through the previous videos, I'm sure that these are just easier for you, right? And over here, from sklearn.tree, we want to import decision tree. So all these are just some classification algorithms that we're going to use as we progress, right? And we have the Gaussian NB for naive Bayes, and then SVC, which is the support vector classifier for which is present in support vector machine, right? So we are going to build a classification algorithm. That's why we need all these, right? K-neighbors classifier, logistic regression, accuracy, model selection. Image to plot my image. So I have all these libraries being imported, and the same libraries that we were using earlier on, right? So this, not that different. There's just that in this case we are doing some classification, so we added some classification algorithms over here. Okay, so if you remember, we added an image in the previous video. We added an image, so the same thing. We need this library to add the image over there, right? So over here, I'm setting this title, right? So as you can see, st.title. Then the title that I want, right, I put it here, which is total data science, right? And then the image, right, I have this image there, which is TDS logo. That's the image that I'm going to use, right? So TDS logo.png, that's the image that I want to use. And then I have st.image. This is where I actually output my image on the web app for people to see, right? For my users to see. So I'm going to save this by using Command S or Control S, right, on Windows. All right. So after I'm done with that, so let me go and then run this, right? So let me go and run this. Actually, let me do it like this. So I'm going to do Streamlit, right? I'm going to do Streamlit run, right? And then my app name over here is ML, right? We remember that we store it as ML app.py, right? So if I do this, right, it's supposed to open in my browser for me. So let's see. All right, this is here we are, and it's actually running, as you can see over here, right? Okay, so we have something matplotlib notify. Okay, so That's what we did earlier on. So let's go back and then comment this part and see. Normally it's supposed to just work like this, right? So let's see if we do that and then set this thing to always run. Right, now you see that everything is fine here. Okay, so we have our title, which is total data science, which is what we just did over here, right? That is just what we just did. And then the image that we want, right? I have this image on my system, so I just load the image using the image.open, right? Remember that I imported this image over here, right? So that's what I'm using, right? And basically that is it. That is it for what you can expect as we start. So you can add whatever title that you want. You can add whatever image that you want over here. Okay. All right. So after this is done, what I'm going to do is to actually go into details to whatever we want to actually build our app for, right? So in this case, we're going to perform some activities, right? We're going to do it in about 4 different segments. That is the EDA part, the visualization part, the model building part, and then the about us part, right? So let's give them some activities that we're going to do. Let's write it over here. So for that, I'm going to define some main function here, right, which is going to contain the main activities that we're going to do. All right. So in that main function, let me even do this. So this will be the activities that we're going to do, right? So the activities, let me put those activities in the form of a list, right? So we'll be doing EDA, right? We'll be doing EDA. Then we will do visualization, right? We do visualization. Okay, we do visualization. Then we do the model, right? We do the model part, right? So we do this part too. Then after that, we do the about us, right? We do the about us part. Okay, so this is what the activities that we're going to perform over here, right? And then in this case, I'm going to actually put this at the sidebar, right? So as you can see over here, there's no sidebar. So the activities that we're going to perform, I'm going to put it here at the sidebar, right? I'm going to do it that way. So this option, that is going to be the option that the people will be choosing. So option.sidebar, right? Since I want to put it at the sidebar, then it's going to be a select box. I'm sure by now you know what select box does, right? Which gives you gives your users options to choose from, right? So select box, and then I'm going to give them a message like maybe select option, right? Something like that. So select option. Let me do this, and then in this case I put my activities there, right? So the options are going to come from these activities, right? So either the person will select EDA or visualization or model or about us, right? So that's actually going to be what the person would do. Okay, now after that is done, let's actually define this. Let's give this if the option, right, if the option is equivalent to EDA, right? So that's the options that we are giving them, right? If this is equivalent to EDA, then there are some activities that the person will actually perform, right? So and if it's not equivalent to EDA, I'm actually going to put some things in here, right? I'm actually going to put some stuff in here, right? So let me just put these ones. So there will be some stuff in there, right? So the next part, that's going to be elif in small case, I mean lowercase, right? So elif the option, right? If the option is equivalent to say visualization, right? Then for that case too, we have some stuff that we'll be doing. So let me just put these lines over here. Otherwise, if this got this, right, if the option is equal to, or is equivalent to, rather, if it's equivalent to say model, right? If it's equivalent to model, then there's some stuff that we're going to do over here as well. There's some stuff that we're going to do over here, right? Else if again, so elif, right? Elif the option, elif the option is equivalent to about us, right? That is about us. Okay, then over here too, there are some stuff that we have to put in here. All right, so these are some activities that we're going to perform over here. All right, so we will build them one by one, right? We will build the EDA part, then we build the visualization part, then we build the model part, then lastly we are going to build the about us part. Okay, let me give some space over here. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So let's get started, and then I will start with the EDA part. Right, we started with the EDA part. Okay, so for that, let's say if the person selects EDA, right, then for that purpose, what I'm going to do is to actually, let me first set some subheader here, right, so that the person will know what's expected over here, right? So this part is an exploratory, right? This part is an exploratory data analysis. All right, so that's what we are going to perform over here. So that title is actually going to appear over there. So at the last part, what we need to actually do is if this, right, so that's mainly what you're supposed to add. If you're using Surround text, then automatically you can get it, right? So we don't forget to add this at the bottom of it, right? Don't forget to add this at the bottom of it. So let me do Control S and then C, or Command S and see if everything is fine. Let me comment this ones out, right? Since we are not there yet, right? Let me comment it out and then do Control S and then go and see if everything is fine. Okay, so now you see that everything is fine because we are in EDA, right? So over here you see that we have EDA, we have visualization, model, and then about us, right? So and then under EDA we have exploratory data analysis, right? That's exactly what we are doing over here. Okay, so we have these options that we've given them, and then we've put these options on the sidebar, right? And if we select any of these options, right, for instance, if we select EDA, what we have done so far in the EDA is the subheader over here, which is exploratory data analysis. So if the person selects EDA, right, if the person selects EDA, this is the only thing that we see so far. That's what we have done so far. Okay, so let's move ahead, and then let me uncomment this back, right, and then push them down because we are not there yet. Now let's build the EDA part. And then after that, we can now push to the other part. Okay, so what we're going to do after setting the subtitle is to give them the option, right? So all these are supposed to actually be within the if, right? So to give them the option to load their data sets, right? So we're going to do data equals st.file uploader, which is going to help them to upload their files, right? So I'm going to do this to give them instruction, upload file, or maybe upload the data set. So let me do it that way, right? Upload data set. I think that's going to be fine. And then for the type of the data set, we have CSV file, we have the text file, HTML, JSON, or whatever. So you need to specify the type of the file that you want them to actually load. So in this case, maybe we can give them option of loading a CSV file, right? CSV file, or maybe the data is in the form of XLSX, right? Something like that, right? That is SL format, okay. And then we can also give them option to load maybe TXT, right? Or maybe it's not that necessary, right? And maybe it's in the form of a JSON, right? Form of a JSON. In this case, we can even limit it to CSV, but you can do it. You can give them options, right? And you can give them a lot of options, right? Let me just leave it like that. All right. Now, after that is done, if they are able to load it successfully, then we can actually maybe show them the success message, right? That whatever they loaded is success, right? So maybe data successfully loaded, right? So maybe we can just give them something like that, okay, for them to be sure that whatever action they performed is success, right? So after that is done, I can now do if the data that they are loading is actually not null, right? So they should actually load something, not an empty file, right? So if whatever they are loading is not none, right, then what I'm going to do here is to read the data, because we have to use the read underscore CSV to actually read this. So maybe let me do this and store it in a variable called df, right? So df equals pd, right? Remember that we use pd.read underscore csv, right? Just like we do in the Jupyter Notebook, right? The same thing that we're doing over here. All right, so we read that in this case it's going to be our data here, right? So this data, right, that the file that they uploaded, right? Remember that over here is just a file, right? This one sees it as just a file, and we need to just read it over here. That's when we use pandas to read it, so that we get it in the form of a pandas data frame, right? So in this case, what we're going to do after that is done, right? After this is done, what you're going to do is to set this to a data frame. Okay, so we're going to do it this way, and then maybe not you, yeah, maybe we can just see the head of it, df.head. So whatever they load, right, whatever data that they load, just straight away we convert it to a data frame, and then we see the head of it. Maybe not the first, the head will give us the first 5 rows, right, or the first 5 records. So maybe we can increase it to say maybe the first 10, or maybe the first 50, right? So let me go extreme, the first 50, right? So we can also do that. All right, now that part is done. Let's actually save this one and go and see what we're doing. If okay, so we have some error here, right? Syntax error, blah blah blah. I think it's this part. Yeah, let's comment it out, right? We're not here yet, so let's comment it out, and then Control S or Command S, save it again. Now you see that now we have everything fine here. You see we have our upload data set, which we did over here. Set option, we have this exploratory data analysis, which you can see over here. We always have it over here. Then after that, we give them the option to upload their file. So upload data set, right? This is what you can see over here. Upload data set, and then it's actually this upload file uploader is going to give us this option so that they can actually click on this browse here, right, and then load any data that they want. So if, for instance, if they click on, say, they load any data that they want, right, so it's going to actually load that, right, it's going to load that, and then you see that it's just running, right, it's going to load that. So if any error is there, it's actually going to throw an error, otherwise it's going to give us. So you see that it's converted to a data frame nicely for us. All right, so that part is done. That part is actually done, and we are seeing the first 50, right? We are seeing the first 50, right? You see that from 0 to 49, which is the first 50 records. Okay, you can expand this one and then see it if you want to see all of them like that. Okay, let me minimize it. Now that part is done. We are able to load, and we are able to see the head of it. Maybe we want to actually see more than the head of it, right? So let's give them some other options that they can actually do. So maybe if let me actually do this, and then use checkbox to actually do this, right? Give them some other options that they can actually choose from. So if checkbox, right, if checkbox, maybe the shape, right, they want to see the shape of it, so maybe display shape, something like that, right? So we can do that, and for that, if I do that, right, I'm supposed to bring colon here, right? So if I do that, then I'll do st.write, right? The inside of that, I'll do my df. Remember that if you want to see the shape of it, use df.shape, right? Don't forget the same thing that we do in the Jupyter Notebook, right? It's the same thing that we are doing over here, right? So they can see the shape of it. They can also maybe let me save this one. Let's go and see what do we have over here, right? So now it's running, so let it run for some couple of seconds. Now you see that we have the shape of it. If we click on the shape of it, right, it's going to give us the shape of the data that we've loaded, right? It's running, so as soon as it's done, now you can see that we have the shape of it over there, right? So let's add more than the shape. let's continue adding some other things that we can allow them to do. Okay, maybe they can display the columns, right? So maybe if we can do if st.checkbox, right, and then we can write in the checkbox maybe display column, right, display column, display columns. So for that, if I do that, and then I do here, I come here, then I do st.write. Remember that if you want to display the column, use df.columns, right, df.columns, that's it. and you're done. And then we can also give them flexibility to let's see, what else can we let them do? Maybe the summary, right? And we can select, maybe because we over here, you see that we have, if they have a huge data set, the running is going to take a little bit of time. So let's give them the option to select some of the columns so that they want to perform summary on, right? So let's actually do that. So over here, I can actually do maybe give them multi-select, right? They can select from different columns. So I'm going to do st.checkbox, right? st.checkbox. st.checkbox. Then inside that, I'm going to do select. I'm going to do select option, or select multiple columns, right? Maybe something like that. I think this should work, right? Select multiple columns, and then after that, whatever the columns they are going to select, I'm going to store them in a variable called maybe just select, or selected columns, selected underscore columns. Okay. Then if I do this, right? If I do this, this is where I'm going to use the multi-select, right? So st.multi-select, right? So inside this, if I use multi-select, then I can give them the option to actually select. So let me do this. Okay, then I pass in the columns that I have over here, df.columns. Okay, I can do that. Then after that is done, maybe I can put these columns, that is the new columns that they have selected, right? I can now create, that becomes maybe df1, right? So that becomes a new data frame, right? Because they've selected different columns. So we have the original one to be df, right? And then the new one that they've selected, right, becomes a new data frame, right? So that one is actually going to be equal to, that is df1, right, equals, that is the original one. We are selecting it from the original one, right? Passing the ones that they've selected, right? I do that. So the data that or the columns that they have selected right now, I want to store it in a new variable called df1. That becomes the new data set that they will be working with, right? So for that, if I do it that way, let me put it in the form of a data frame, right? So I do that, then I pass in my df1, right? I put it in a form of a data frame, right? So now I can now do what we were doing earlier on, right? So we segment some of the columns instead of using the huge data that we have, because we have around 284,807, right? Rows with 31 columns. So that's huge, right? So if you want to perform summary on that, it's actually going to take a little bit of time. So we give them the option to select from these columns, right? So if they select from these columns, right, for instance, if they select, say, time v1, v2, v3, v4, that becomes the new data set they are going to work on, right? They are slicing from the original one that we have. Okay, so now this is what we have. Now we have our data set. We can do the same thing that we're doing where we check the shape, we select the columns and stuff like that. We can do the same thing. So over here, we can now do the summary, right? We can now do the summary. So if st.checkbox, right? If st.checkbox, then inside here is equal to display, right? Display summary. You can do it that way, display summary. Then I'm supposed to give this, yeah. Then over here, I'm going to do st.write, right? I'm going to do st.write. Then if you want to display summary, remember that we do df.describe, right? Don't forget, that's what we do, right? So we're going to use the same thing over here, df.describe. And I just like transposing it. I mean, this one is not necessary. I mean, to transpose it is not necessary, right? Let me give a space here. Okay, add this t is not necessary, but I normally like to transpose it so that it will become more convenient to read, right? So I just do that over here, right? I just do that over here, and I think that is better now. That is done. So what I'm going to do, what I'm going to add over here, or maybe let's first see what we've done so far. Let me do Control S or Command S, right, and then see what we've done so far if everything is fine. Okay, so now you see that everything is fine. We have our display columns, right, what we just added over here, which is this, right, display columns, which is this one. Remember that earlier on we just added the shape, then we went back to add this display columns. So if we click on that, let's see what we're going to have. Right, so it's running. It's supposed to give us all the columns that we have in our data set. See that we have it, right? We have all of them, right? So from all the way from 0 to 30, right, which is 31 columns, right? So we can get that, and then you see that over here we have select multiple columns, which is this part, right? Select multiple columns, which is this part. Okay, so that's what it's going to give us. This part is going to help us to do. So let's see what we can do. So let's just select any column, right? Let's just select any random columns over here. Maybe we have our class here. Let me just add that. Right, so this is just 3 of them that I've selected. So let's see what is happening here. Okay, so now you can see that we have the new data frame over here, right? So that's what we were doing here. We select some columns from this, the original one, and then we create a new data frame for it, right? So that's basically what we did over here, right? So now we can do a summary, right? We can do a summary for that. The summary, actually, I'm doing it on this. Maybe I can do it on DF1, which is the new data frame that we have over here, right, which is the new one. So if I do that, let me actually run it again and then come here. So what it's actually doing over here is running it all the way from the start. That's why it takes a little bit of time, but you can cache it. So just to run it from where you want it to run from. Okay, so now you can see that everything is fine. So if we do display summary, right, so let's see the result of that. Okay, so now you see that we have the summary over there, right? So I just transpose it. That's why you see the mean, standard deviation, the 25th percentile, the 50th percentile, 75th percentile, and the maximum. You see them here on the column, right? Otherwise, they would have been here, and then the columns that we are doing it would have been here, right? So I just interchange them. That's all. Okay. So maybe this data set is quite huge. Let me actually change it and see. Right? Maybe the breast cancer one will actually it's just a bit small, so let's see. Okay, so let's over here, you see that we have 569, right? Instead of the other one, which was in thousands, we have this one to be just 569, right, with only 4 columns. The other one we're having 31 columns. So you can see what we have over here. It's quite simple. So if the people have not selected anything over here, it's actually going to give us that kind of it's going to show that kind of error. So if I select something like that, it's now you see that it's gone. The summary is there, everything is working fine. So let's go back over here and then try to add some more ingredients to this, right? So after the summary, maybe we want to check if there are any null values in there, right? So we can also do that. So what I'm going to do over here is to do this if st.checkbox, right? So if st.checkbox. Then inside that, it's supposed to be in quotes. Inside that, I'm going to do display, right? Display now values. Okay, so this is what we have. We want to display the now values. Okay, so for that, I'm going to do st.rise. Then inside that, I'm going to do df dot is now. So if I do is now, right? Okay, so it's now is actually going to give me some true or false, right? But I want to actually know the count of how many trues and how many false are there, right? So if it is false, it means that there are no null values. If it's true, there are null values in there. So I want to see the count of that. So I do is now.sum, right? So that I'll get a summary of everything. So let me save this one. Let's go and see what we have, right? So now you can see that we have display null values in there, right? We have it there, and then the summary of if there are any null values. In this case, we don't have any null values, so that's why you see 0 zeros over here, right? So if we have any null values in there, then it's going to actually display that. Okay, so we've seen how we can add null values in there. So let's see what we can actually maybe the data type. We can also see the data type. So if so, you can just do this as random as you want. Anything that you want to add over here, right? Whatever EDA that you want to perform, you can actually do it over here, right? So maybe I want to do display data type, right? Or maybe display the data type, the data types, right? So I can do that, and then actually I'm supposed to do this, right? So over here I do st.write, and then remember, if you want to see the data type, you use df.dtypes, right? So dtypes, okay, that's it, and then you're done. So if you do that, and then maybe let me save it and then show you what we have, right? So you see that's display the data type is there. If I click on that, right, it's actually running. Now you can see the results. We have float 64, float 64, float 64, and then int. Right, so this is basically what we have, the data types that we have. We can also add what else can we do? Maybe the correlation, right? We can check the correlation. So maybe the correlation between these values. So st.checkbox, right? So I'm going to use checkbox again, and then inside checkbox I'm going to do display what did we say, correlation, right? So display correlation, right? Display correlation of data type or data points or various columns, right? Maybe that actually makes sense. This is fine, right? So I do that, and then over here I do st.write. Then inside this, what I'm going to add here is remember, if you want to check the correlation, what you do is df.call. That's it, and you're done. Right, so let me save this. It's Control S or Command S, and then I come here. You see that I have here display correlation of data columns, so I can do this, right? If I check it, you can see that we have it over there. Of course, the diagonals are going to be 1 1 1 1 1, right? So you can see the correlation between the column that is named as 30 and say malignant, right? It's positively correlated, right? As you can see over there, right? If you see say benign, and the column that is named as 569 is actually negative, highly negatively correlated, right? Highly negatively correlated, right? So you can actually see the correlation just like that, right? So everything that we do in the Jupyter Notebook, right? All the analysis that we do in the Jupyter Notebook, we can do the same thing, right? We can do the same thing and then give our users that kind of visual appealing way of dealing with the data instead of them dealing with the code at the background, right? So this is more user friendly, right? So this is more user friendly for our stakeholders to actually deal with their data. All right, now that is done. I mean, I think it's enough, and you can be as flexible as you want, right? You can add as many as you want. So at the EDA part, I mean, I will end it here, right? You can add as many as you want. So anything that's anything that you've been doing over here, right? Anything that you've been doing over here, I mean, all the data pre-processing that you've been doing here, you can add them, right? You can add them and then display it for them to actually see. Okay, you can add everything here. So now let's go to the visualization part. If we go to the visualization part, we see that it's empty. There's nothing there, right? There's nothing there right now. Whatever we've done is at the EDA part, right? At the EDA part, that's what we've done, something over here, right? That's what we've done, something over here. But the visualization part is actually empty, right? The visualization part is empty, model part is empty, about us is empty. So now we are done with the visualization part. So we're going to pick up the visualization part. So let me bring it up, right? Remember that we commented them out. So let me push them up.